Yes, it's about there.
Thank you much. Welcome, everyone. This is Todd Bywerther. I'm the manufacturing representative on the State Building Code Council and the chair of the IBC and IEBC Technical Advisory Group, of which this is for June 8th, 2022. Could we please take roll?
Yes. Todd Bywerther.
Yes, here.
Roger Heringer.
I'm here.
Charles Calvano. Charles Calvano. No. Sue Kaufman.
Here.
Let's see. Mark is alternate, but Mark Sniffen. Sean Karlstrom. Sean? No. Corey Thomas.
I'm here.
Tom? Tom's here? Wait, sorry. I've been practicing whether you can say it. Tom, are you here? No, okay. Chris Seaman. Al Spalding. Is Al here? No. Michael Bart.
I'm here.
Will Rodriguez. Andrea Smith.
Here.
Okay. Dave Germer. Dave. Bill. Mybush. Bill. No. Adam Phillips.
Here.
Okay, so let's see. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Well,
A little short.
let's do it again.
Any tag members that
We
join out
need-
here that weren't called? Trying to look at the list here.
Give me a sec.
I came in a little late. It's my name is Charlie Calvano.
Okay, Charlie. Welcome. We have a quorum now. So
Save the
let's.
day, Charlie. Welcome.
Thanks.
Tom, is Tom here? No. Chris Seaman, Al Spalding, and Bill. Okay, well, we have 8. We have a quorum.
Okay, well then we'll monitor, just to make sure I was kind of for it. Okay, so along that line would anyone from the public or other stakeholders like to be recognized for the meeting?
Tim Atterbury, Associated General Contractors of Washington.
Yep, Mike Ennis with the Association of Washington Business.
Rachel Jamison, American Wood Council.
Webley Bowles, New Buildings Institute.
Dave Walsh Consulting.
Adam
Ryan.
Hutchinson. Go ahead.
Ryan Smith, Spokane Home Builders Association. Sorry to cut you off there, Adam.
Adam Hutchinson, Northwest Concrete Masonry Association.
Jan Peng, National Ready Mix Concrete Association.
Larry Andrews, General Contractor, Andrews Mechanical.
Jay Heinmarsh, Miller Hall Partnership.
Natalie Boholt with SDCI and WABO Technical Code Committee.
Mark Struley, Iron Workers District Council of the Pacific Northwest.
Ryan Pesa, Western Wood Preservers Institute. Micah Chappelle, Seattle Department of Construction and Inspections, also a SBCC board member representing code officials.
John Siu Consulting, representing the Washington Association of Building Officials.
Okay, thanks, everyone. Good list of stakeholders. Okay, Larry, you have your hand up. Was that just to be recognized? Thank you. Okay, thank you, everyone. Let's move into agenda item 2 to review and approve the agenda. Before we jump into a motion, I want to just clarify in agenda item 4. We should also read review 2021 IEBC, which is the first one, and then IBC, which are the two, 095, 096. Is that correct?
Yes, sorry, technical mistake.
Okay. Anyone else see any or like to propose any changes? Can we hear a motion to approve? So go ahead. Yes,
Todd,
go ahead.
this is Roger. I have one potential addition, and I'm unclear whether this applies to the tag members or not. As a state building code counsel, I got a notice that I need to make sure I maintain all of my records on proposal 095 and 096. And if that is required for the tag members as well, or just the state building code council members, I'm unclear, but I kind of thought that we should at least raise that as a discussion point for the tag members.
As far as I know, the same email the council members received, the same email was sent to the technical advisory group members, but that's above my pay grade. We have a public record coordinator who is responsible for that.
Okay.
Okay, so when was that sent?
I believe last week.
Yeah.
Okay.
Last week sometime.
Okay, thank you.
And maybe we can handle that under other business. That would be fine with me, but.
Okay, thank you, Roger. Any other comments on that? And Andrea?
Yeah, I just wanted to revisit. I know last time I had done the motion to table 095, 096 until we were to receive general counsel direction on whether or not we can make a determination on those. So I would like to know from staff if there has been any conversations or any determination on those.
Andrea, thank you for that question. We did, and let's talk about that agenda 4 if that's okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, thank you for raising that. Roger, another question?
No, sorry.
Okay, no worries. Okay. Any other proposed edits for the agenda, or can we hear a motion to approve the current agenda with the modification of adding IEBC to item 4?
I would move that we approve the agenda as modified.
Thank you. Roger?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Sue. Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Or abstentions? Okay, agenda is approved. Agenda item 3, review and approve the summary minutes. I believe they are posted, right, Sonia?
We have summary minutes, yes. They were posted on the website.
Okay. Are you interested in flashing those? Is that what you're?
Annette, are you showing the minutes?
I don't see them yet. But...
give me a second then.
Well, if they're posted, I guess we can give a second for everyone to make sure they've reviewed them.
Sorry, that took me a minute. Can you see now? Oh.
No, thank you, Annette. Yep.
Well, I'm not sure who is showing the minutes, but
Oh, Stein
doesn't
has it.
matter. Doesn't matter. It's summary minutes.
Okay, as we're skimming those or reviewing them independently, and are there any proposed edits or changes? Okay. Well, let me know if I'm rushing anyone. If not, we hear a motion to approve.
I'll move to approve the meeting minutes for June 1st.
Thank you, Sue.
Second.
Thank you, Jeanette. Who was? Sorry, I missed that.
It was Andrea.
Oh, Andrew, thank you. Okay, any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed, nay? Or abstentions? Okay, June 1st minutes are approved. Okay, item. Oh, I see. Okay, now we're into the main item here. So agenda item 4. I'm going to give a little bit of summary here as we work our way into these today. So we are at the end of our initial phase as a technical advisory group, where we've reviewed proposals for the 2021 amendments to the Washington State Building Code for both the IBC and the IEBC. There are 3 proposals that we've tabled for this meeting. The IEBC was just the last proposal, and we chose to table because it needed a little more attention, and at least one member wanted to take time to review. And then the 2 IBC proposals have been a more thorough discussion, and they've been a heavier lift. So we've left those 2 now to this meeting. I want to, again, just restate for everyone on these meetings, the Technical Advisory Group is an advisory, advises the State Building Code Council. State Building Code Council are appointed members, often volunteers, appointed by the governor, which has rulemaking authority granted by the legislature to conduct this process. The Technical Advisory Group, while we do take action, this is not, although a couple of us are on the State Building Code, this again is our recommendations on what the council should consider as we move it into first the standing committee, and in this case, the building, fire, plumbing, the BFP committee, and then ultimately the council. So there are 3 steps, and you see on the spreadsheet here, we're at that TAG recommendation. And so the actions we can take today are approve as submitted or proposed. We can make modifications, and as with all stakeholders, this is an open meeting. It's not just the TAG members that deliberate or should can make recommendations and modify, or we can disapprove. And I want to make sure that's the right language. At times, I want to make sure we're not using the word reject. Our rules state that we can approve as modified, and I believe disapprove. Is that correct, Stoyan or others?
That's correct, yes.
Okay.
We were using rejected, but it was introduced before the council was disapproved. So I'm trying to clean up our documents and use disapprove, which is more, it aligns with the bylaws.
Okay, thank you, Stoyan. So I want to raise this because, again, while we are taking action today, the standing committee and the council also have to take action. So if we approve as modified, or disapprove, it still can be considered at the committee level and should be considered by the body having the rulemaking authority. And so I want to be very clear that if likely we'll have a split vote today, and and regardless, the committee will consider it at the next level.
If I can add to that, so the meeting, the next council meeting is scheduled on June 17th. So let's say the council agrees with the technical advisory group, but this is not the adoption meeting, okay? So the council will direct the council staff to file, how we call it, CR 102, which is the initial submittal. So we will file it. We'll have about 2 months comment period. So we'll be receiving written comments. And then we will have at least 2 public hearings. And then the council will have a work session currently scheduled for October. And the adoption meeting is scheduled for November. So it's a long process, and I see 47 people are attending this meeting. It's not the end of the world, this meeting. So there is a long process, and there will be other opportunities for comments and testimony.
Okay, thank you, Stoyan. Any questions? I'll just pause there for a second if there are any questions from TAG members or stakeholders. Okay. So second point, to Andrea's question, Stoyan, do you want to give a summary of our meeting last week?
I hope you can do that.
Oh, okay, I'll absolutely. So in a previous meeting, a questions were raised on a couple fronts. One, especially regarding the 2 proposals for steel and concrete on the IEBC of appropriateness for consideration. The request was, will we have can we have a meeting with our legal counsel for the State Building Code Council on that question? We can get more specific on the RCW if needed, but a general summary of that meeting, and it was attended, if I can remember correctly, by Stoyan, me, our council, and 2 other TAG members, or 2 other council members, including the council chair. And so we did discuss this, and we were advised that we can move forward at this level, and in consideration it's appropriate. We also were advised, I don't want to get into specifics because I would rather have, if our representation is here, if anyone has any specific questions on that. But we also were advised that it is appropriate and to give these proposals, fair consideration and deliberation, which I think we have at this point. And so we hope to, conclude that at least first round today to move this forward with a recommendation, knowing that there's probably likely a lot more work at this, and it's up to the committee to help guide us now whether they'll ask this TAG for more stakeholder engagement, or if the process going forward at the committee and council level will be appropriate. So that's not the legal response, obviously, and I'm not qualified to give that, but are there any questions on that? So our intent today is to move forward and continue discussion and to take action on this today.
And our Assistant Attorney General will be available at the council meeting on June 17th if we need to get into details, legal details.
Okay.
So this is Tim with AGC. So you had council review RCW 1927202 section 4.
That's correct. Yes.
Michael?
Yeah, thank you. So did the AG provide anything in writing on that ruling that we can view?
No, he did not. Keep in mind that I don't want to really get into this legal stuff, but whatever the Assistant Attorney General says, it doesn't mean we will get sued or we will not get sued. Okay, it's an opinion which is not based on case laws or anything available at the moment. So we had the conversation. The suggestion was, okay, go ahead and we will reevaluate before and at the council meeting.
if I can, I thank you for that. I appreciate it. I think our concern here, though, is that the proposals seem so clearly to violate the RCW that we're a little surprised the AG would find you have authority to go forward. And without seeing anything in writing, it's difficult for us to sort of accept that verbally.
The AG advised the council, not the technical advisory group. And again, I'll give you an example with the fire door, right? You know, there are specific requirements for fire separation between the dwelling unit and the garage. And when the code requires a fire door, it doesn't mean it violates the law because a manufacturer doesn't produce this type of a door. I'm just paraphrasing here, but my point is we don't have anything in writing. We had the go-ahead. And again, this is the first step for this group to advise the council. And then if we have legal issues on these two particular proposals, then there is time to enact on those.
And thank you, Stoyan. And Michael, to that point, in this position and responsibility as chair, I'm not taking a position on that. I've been advised to move forward and conduct the responsibilities of this role on these proposals. Roger, would you like to add to that, please?
Yeah, I just want to respond. I believe that that whether or not the original proposals 95 and 96 went against the RCW is an opinion, which I don't happen to share. However, this tag is not the venue for us to get into conversation about interpreting the RCW. The tag is here to consider whether the proposal makes sense moving forward. That's number one. And number two, I would suggest that if people have not looked, the revised proposals that are in there have eliminated, in my opinion, any concerns that it would go against the RCW. So the second revision to these proposals, in my opinion, has taken out all of the controversial portions of it, and we need to debate that and talk about that as we get into those proposals later on.
Okay, thank you, Roger. Yeah. Okay, so let's come back to these two proposals on the IBC, and we can have further discussions about scope and what our responsibilities are today as a tag. I want to, as we discussed in the last meeting, I want to go through the one IEBC, the final IEBC proposal first, and then we'll get to the IBC. So we could pull that up, please, and invite the proponent to speak to this proposal.
Yeah, hi, this is Natalie Bohold, the proponent.
Welcome.
Thank you. Yeah, this is my first time joining this type of group, so thanks for letting me present this proposal. So this proposal adds an exception to two sections in the IEBC to the 503.13, which is a prescriptive method, and then 805.4, which is the work area method. And the purpose of this proposal is to add flexibility to the type of lateral systems that can be used for a voluntary seismic upgrade or alteration project. So the reason this proposal was introduced is that the current language is can be found to be ambiguous and doesn't clearly offer flexibility in the type of lateral systems that can be used for voluntary seismic upgrades. Currently, the main text of these sections state that the seismic and wind sections of the IBC do not need to be met as long as 4 items are met, which are listed, well, they're not currently listed here, but they're listed in the code. And of those 4 items, the second one states that where new structural elements are added, this shall be detailed and connected as required per the IBC for new construction. So this implies that new lateral systems added to an existing building to voluntarily improve its seismic performance are to be designed and detailed to meet the requirements of the IBC and ASC 7, after stating that the wind and seismic sections of the IBC do not need to be met. So it's been seen as being confusing. ASC 7 has limitations on the various types of lateral systems, from ordinary to special systems, and it has limitations on those. For example, in seismic design category D, only special concrete shear walls can be specified. Ordinary concrete shear walls are not permitted. So the reason what this proposal does, is that it would allow new lateral systems to be of a type that would normally not be allowed by ASC 7. It's an example is typically like in older existing buildings, a URM building. A perfect example is that those URM walls are extremely stiff, and if you were to add a special ductile moment frame, the systems would not be compatible, would not have good deformation compatibility. So the reason the proposal would allow some flexibility for an engineer to provide like an ordinary concrete shear wall that would better match the deformation of the existing building. And also, I wanted to add that this proposal was approved at the national level at the committee action hearing by the committee.
Outstanding. Thank you, Natalie.
Yeah.
Roger, please.
Yeah, I was the one, I know last week that had a little bit of concern about approving this right away. And we started to consider it, I think, when we were already over our time. And I wanted to take a little bit of time to make sure I understood it. And I'm in complete support of it. I think it makes total sense. And it's certainly gives us more tools when we are doing a voluntary upgrade. So that's great. My only question is, and I'm not sure I know the answer to this, but my question is it clear everywhere this applies? And specifically, Natalie, I'm thinking like, you know, the table 12.2 specifies the R, which is used to calculate your overall shear that is going to the brace frame, the ordinary brace frame. Is it clear that what we would do with drags? You know, would we use those forces then to calculate the drags? And I think that flows through all of the code language. And I know that was John Sue's opinion when I raised the question last time, is with what you've done, you've allowed an ordinary or intermediate frame on a voluntary upgrade. And I'm just wondering from a code perspective, if it flows through clearly that does or does not apply to all the drags. You know, is it all of the seismic calculations that you're going to do in this particular upgrade? And the answer may be that it does. So that would be my question. Do you believe that it does? And
so by the drags, you mean like the collector elements?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think you'd be using the corresponding omega factor, overstrength factor for the that correspond to the ordinary system that is being proposed. I wouldn't want it to make it more strict than that. You know, so yeah, that was my understanding, is that you pick a system and then you use all the values that are all the factors that are associated with that system.
Yeah.
And it flows down with the collectors. Yeah.
That's what I thought too. And I was just not completely clear even when I read it again. So I mean, that answers my question, and I would support this. So.
Okay. Are there any questions from anybody else?
Okay, I'm not seeing any, but I, having cut my teeth on URM retrofits during the Nisqually era. I also am in strong support of this. Thank you for bringing this forward.
And this is specifically for IBC designs. You know, somebody's using ASC 41 obviously has more flexibility in the design. So, yeah.
Okay. Well, seeing no other questions or comments, would someone like to make a motion to move this forward to the BFP committee?
Yeah, I would make a motion that we approve this as submitted.
Thank you, Roger.
This is Sue. I'll second.
Thank you, Sue. Any other deliberation? Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed, nay? Or abstentions? Okay. So approved. Thank you, Natalie.
Thank you.
Okay, now that should conclude all of our IEBC proposals. Now we'll move into the two IBC that we previously discussed. And I see, as it was posted, that there is amendment. So I think I'll first ask the proponent to give us a summary, please.
All right. Good morning. My name is Webley Bowles. I'm with New Buildings Institute. Thank you to the TAG for your time in considering these proposals. It's been a heavy lift for you, I hear that, but I appreciate your time and attention and the AG's time in reviewing these proposals. So there's 3 proposals here. The TAG can choose to accept the third proposal or not. So the code change proposals 95 and 96 have been combined into one proposal of 95 with the addition of engineered wood. And that's a little bit of a backdoor, and the TAG can choose if they want to do that or not. We did that because of the overwhelming interest in including engineered wood into the proposal.
If I can clarify first, and yes, it was submitted. I posted it on the website. However, I consider this a proposal that was submitted after the closing date on April 8. The TAG can discuss this and recommend the council accept this proposal, and I'll make the same comment at the council. And if the council decides to do it, it's out of my hands.
Okay, great.
So let's keep. We can use the combined document for the discussion, but I will keep proposal number 95 and 96 as different proposals. And again, if the council decides to add the word, then I will ally with the with the direction.
Okay. So
and Webley, just thank you for that. So no changes were made to 95 and 96 since our last meeting. The effort was put into this combined proposal.
So 95 and 96 have changed to EPD reporting, and I'll walk through those changes in just a second. 95 takes those edits from 95 and 96, crams them into 95 and adds wood.
Thank you.
Engineered wood, I should say.
So here is the combined document. So again, I will use this for discussion purposes, but whatever the recommendation, the TAG recommendation is, I will update 95 and 96.
Okay.
On the website, you have the last versions of 95 and 96, and again, I posted the combined document.
All right. I see another hand up. Should I move forward with doing the quick summary, or do we have?
Yeah, the floor is yours, brother. Thank you.
Okay. So in the concrete portion first, it requires that 75% of the ready mix concrete mixes provide product specific type 3 EPDs, environmental product declarations, and that they are available in a public database. 2 definitions have been removed, the cementitious material and lightweight concrete, and that just means that the ACI's definitions apply over these revised code definitions. We've also separated out in the definitions CO2 and GWP though I'm not sure if we actually need to include GWP because it's not mentioned within the proposal. We've also clarified that the proposal is for the primary structural frame, including lateral and foundations. I'm not sure that we actually need to state lateral, but because it's not clear that that definition is within the primary structural frame. So that excludes parking lot, sidewalks, and other concrete from this proposal. Just clarifies that a little bit more. And then we have the same exceptions for precast, shotcrete, and auger cast. And that just helps to clarify that we're really looking at ready mix concrete here. It only applies to projects that are over 50,000 square feet and that use more than 50 total cubic yards. So projects where no concrete providers have EPDs within 100 miles are also excluded from this. And then we have confirmation of the product's EPDs should be provided to the AHJ prior to certificate of occupancy, either through a signed letter by the architect engineer. And I'm happy to talk more about implementation and enforcement later. Just want to get through these changes first. So moving down to steel. This requires that 75% of the structural steel, including hollow sections, steel plates, reinforcing bars that are used in the project's primary structural frame, lateral force resisting systems, and foundations need to comply and provide EPDs for those projects. Again, we have similar exceptions where projects that are under 50,000 square feet are exempt, and where steel is, the cost of steel is less than 5% of the total project value. So those are the main things there within steel. EPD reporting is pretty much the primary thing. The controversy addition here is the engineered wood. If you want to scroll down just a little bit more, similar requirements here. 75% of the permanently installed engineered wood would need to provide EPDs, and that's again for projects that are over 50,000 square feet. And then being aligned with HB 1103, we have additional reporting to include COC if it exists, chain of custody, percent volume, contributing to wood sourcing with forest management, source location, and sourcing by owner type. So I'm going to leave it there. That's just a general walkthrough. I'm sure that there's a couple questions and one or two comments, but I also want to make sure that we get to the conversation around enforcing.
Thank you, Evie. Yeah, let's park that and come back to that enforcement. You know, as I've been thinking through this, let's talk about our best contribution as a TAG to inform and advise first the committee, the broader committee of council members. You know, that we can talk about process, but I think that determination of whether or not, you know, to the staff's recommendation that this is considered a you know, after the deadline, submitted after the deadline, we can discuss that, but I think that's better dealt with at the committee level. I think our best contribution, in my opinion, looking for feedback, is really on the merits and technical aspects of these three proposals. Roger, do you want to speak to it first, and then Andrea, please?
Sure, thank you. And I'm with you, Todd. I am unclear of the you know, the process as far as introducing the wood. I certainly know that was a concern that was raised in our last two meetings of why concrete and steel and not wood. So it does address that concern, and I would support that, but I also understand that we need to follow the process. So I did want to say, in my opinion, the revised proposals, as I see, number one, I strongly support, and I think that we have, you know, we've listened to a whole lot of conversation about these two proposals over the last two meetings, and in my opinion, the revised proposal addresses all of those concerns that were raised and is a very, very good compromise to help us move forward. And, you know, some of the concerns that I had that were raised, about the what would the limits, and are there limits, and if we have limits, are those limits, does it create a buy clean proposal of some sort? And the revised proposal has no limits. So I actually would support putting some limits on and making those limits easy to meet, but I understand that that's a controversial question, and what are those limits would be a very, very involved discussion. Taking all of those limits out, all this is it's a reporting. We are requiring that for large projects that they need to report the EPDs, which I think is a great step forward. I think Webley was talking about the enforcement, and I recognize that that's a concern for the building officials. As a structural engineer, I provide a stamped substantial completion letter right prior to C of O, and basically it says the building is constructed in general conformance with the drawings and the design. I don't see this as being any different. There will be somebody on the design and or construction team that is responsible for providing a letter to the building official. So the demand on the building officials or the enforcement is you need to have a letter that gets received that's somebody else's responsibility. So I believe that this addresses that. I know that there was concerns about smaller concrete producers or smaller suppliers, and I think number one, limiting this to structural primary structure. It takes out all of the sidewalks, curbs, all of that kind of stuff. So it does just address the primary structure. I think the 50,000 square foot limit, it is only for larger projects. While this could mean that there are projects that a small supplier goes after that they do have to have EPDs, it's not like they're going to have EPDs for every mix that they have under this proposal. There was a concern about ramping up of needing to have these EPDs, and I want to be clear, this would get, theoretically, if it goes all the way through, it would become effective July of 23. These EPDs would not need to be submitted and completed until right before C of O of a project that is approved under the new code. So if I would say 6 to 12 months of a design and permitting process and another 12 months of construction, you are probably in the January of 2025 range when you would actually have to have these PDs available. So I don't think that this is not springing some huge issue on the industry. And then, there was, as I said, there were comments about if we're doing steel and concrete, not wood. Ultimately, in my opinion, concrete and steel are the products that are responsible for the largest percentage of greenhouse gas emissions. So I would support 95 and 96 as they are, as modified, as they, under their currently modified form. I would also, I would support the combined version that includes wood as well, assuming that works from a process perspective. So that's all I've got.
Okay, thank you, Roger. Let's go with Andrea, please.
Yeah, I have two thoughts. So I kind of understand where you're coming from, where we're a technical advisory group. So that's what we're here to assess the proposals on. However, I think it's a disservice to our time as TAC members to consider something that may down the line, whether it's at the standing committee or the full council, be determined that we should not be having this proposal potentially being implemented into the code. So just my thought on that point. And then my second thought has to do with the combined proposal. And because it was not submitted within the proposal submission period, I would like to make a motion to disapprove this.
Okay, Andrea, I want to ask a question before we entertain that motion. So I hear you, and I'd like feedback, in my role as chair, are you advising that we should not give them consideration in this public forum as proposals that went through the process?
Correct. Not for this combined one. We can talk about the 95 and 96, but the one that includes a section that was not previously proposed during the actual window of opportunity to submit proposals should not be considered by this tag at this time.
Okay, we can entertain this motion, but again, I'm trying to help us draw a line where this tag as stakeholders is conducting a public process, but not defining procedures and rules and so forth. That's more appropriate when we get into the council level and can really better engage, and determine that appropriateness. But we can entertain the motion or entertain a second if anyone has it. And what I'd advise on this is, again, it's not my intent as chair that this tag has the authority to kill anything. But we can give as much commentary, and of course, by record of our vote, how we're advising the standing committee, knowing that standing committee can also push back down to get more feedback from the stakeholder groups, in addition to the public hearing that will be conducted. Okay, well, thank you, Andrew. If we don't hear a second by a tag member, we will move on. Okay, Larry, please.
As a general contractor, I think this is just more of what we've seen happening right now. And the next thing will be the carpet, the nails that we've put into this project. This is ridiculous, and it's extremism at its most. There's no reason for any of this in there. Sure, there's some CO2 that's put out to build all this, but there's CO2 to put out for any building. And to signal this out, the next thing you're going to do is you're going to have a point system developed, just like they did in the energy code, that's going to pit one product against another. And I, as a general contractor, we have enough to be in charge of. We don't need any of this. We're going to use concrete and steel anyway to build our buildings. And we don't need to have to take accounting for how much concrete, how much steel we're putting in these buildings, because it's required to have it in the buildings. This is just another taxation that's going to be put upon all of us. And I want to know right now, I got my increase in taxes for my property, 34% in 2 years. And what's happening is all these new codes that you guys are putting into effect are affecting existing homes and buildings right now, because of the costs are going through the roof. And people on fixed incomes, like retired people, and people are new families, you've priced them out of the market with all your new codes, and you just keep adding more and more legislation to making it even worse. And first we had COVID, and then in the middle of COVID, you put all of these regulations into effect when most of us were just trying to survive. They slipped them in, and now you're even trying to go beyond that. From a general contractor's perspective, this needs to get wiped out and stopped. We've got to build buildings, and they need to be done cost effective. We're just keeping increasing needless costs that aren't going to solve any of the problems. Thank you.
Thank you, Larry. Tian?
Hi, Tian Peng, National Ready Mix Concrete Association. Just 2 points. One is I disagree that all the points were made with regards to these amendments, the major point of whether or not an environmental impact belongs in the IBC or the Washington State Building Code versus some other green codes or standard has not been addressed. This would be the first as a setting of precedence if this moves forward. But my main point is that I want to call a point of order regarding the amended versions. I'm not going to comment on the amended versions per se, except to say that I've been involved in the code development process a while, including my time on the Washington State Building Code Council. And this is a significant change to what was submitted originally. I certainly appreciate the proponents' willingness to, in this amended time, consider all the issues with industry, but that should have happened before the proposal that was submitted. But this is significantly different. Is this proper procedure? Sorry to get on the procedural question again, for code development process, even to be considered. That's my point of order. So I guess it goes, the point of order goes to Stoyan or you, Roger, Todd.
I can answer that.
Go ahead, Stoyan.
I think this is a proper procedure. It's not a new proposal. It's related to the initial proposal. So the initial proposals weren't used as a placeholder. This is related again to the initial proposal, and it was requested by the technical advisory group. And this is why the technical advisory groups were established, and they're part of the process, very major part of the process. So I think this meets the policies and procedures that were approved by the council.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Tian and Stoyan. Micah, please.
Thanks, Todd. Thanks, everyone. Representing the code officials on the Building Code Council, we do have some concerns with this. I do appreciate the proponent going back and making some modifications. Starting with the definitions, they did strike some that weren't used. They broke up the carbon dioxide equivalent definition, and I do agree that the global warming potential definition will not be needed at this point, since it's not used within their changes. I do have some concerns and questions on 1901.8 and why the exception for precast. That seems like a unusual carve out, in my opinion, and maybe that could be explained. I do have a question on where they came up with the 50,000 square foot project number. Is that just, kind of hold your thumb up to the wind and see what occurs? Or was that based on this is a data driven point to where these projects under that size don't need to comply with this? And then on exception 3, on the 50 cubic yard, who is doing that calculation? In other words, if a project comes in and they calculate, oh, I've got 48 yards and I didn't, that's what I shared with the code official. And now we went to 52 yards, is now that on the onus of the code official to provide that documentation after the fact. Where does that volume come in and who documents that or clarifies that? Then moving on into some of the documentation, we're talking about 1901.8.1. It says confirmation of a product CPD. Is that a concrete product in this specific case? And maybe concrete just needs to be added in that sentence. Then moving on to the strike through, that's great. I appreciate some of those changes. It probably is more clear to the code official. Getting into chapter 22, again, same concerns on the 50,000 square foot information. I'd like to know where this size came from. And then item number 2 on the exception there, where we talk about total cost of structural steel is less than 5%. I assume that's coming from the applicant. Is that going to be documented on something special now? Because I don't believe we asked for that type of specific breakdown as code officials now. You're trying to verify some cost, but we don't get that. We a lot of jurisdictions have an automatic calculation of building valuation based on square footage. They don't ask for a breakdown of each individual component. Again, this is another, well, I want to say unfunded mandate for a code official to track something. Then kind of moving down into 23, again, 50,000 square feet. It just seems like a standard number, which is great. I still like to know the data on why that is the size. And then 2308.1.1, I'm trying to struggle with what this is and how it's enforceable. You're talking about something here, chain specific, supply chain specific EPDs, and then you have a database with reporting that has to include chain of custody certification and all these other items. That I gotta be honest with you, it just seems way out of the realm of what the code official should be tracking. You know, Roger, you made a point that you provide a letter of substantial compliance with the plans. If this is a plan requirement, could you not provide this in your letter of compliance that says, hey, these products met all the standards in some way, shape, or form, and that be enough for a jurisdiction? That's really not clear in here either of what is adequate and what is needed. And then I do have some current concerns when it talks about that this must be provided to the AHJ prior to certificate of occupancy. So if a project does not provide this information, or it's inaccurate or something else, are you expecting the authority having jurisdiction to actually hold up the C of O for these type of items? I mean, this seems way outside the realm of fire and life safety items, which is what we normally would hold up a C of O for. So I do have a lot of concerns with this proposal, and that's kind of where we're at with the technical items of it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Micah. There are a lot of good specific questions there. Webley, do you want to take a?
Yeah, and Micah, please let me know if I missed any of your questions. So just first, since you mentioned 50,000 square feet in all of them, that's 50,000 square feet is where House Bill 1103 is aligning with that is kind of where we wanted to go. So it's not for all projects. It sets a minimum target for who needs to comply. So what we see is that assuming House Bill 1103 moves forward, which is the buy clean, buy fair. And I think it was mentioned before that this wouldn't go into effect until later. So buy clean, buy fair would go into effect earlier. It's kind of sets that stage for kind of what's coming. And it kind of proves what's possible. So 50,000 square feet is kind of where we set that limit to align with that House bill. And so you mentioned precast concrete. So yeah, we excluded precast previously because we were addressing specifically global warming potential limits. I think that we could include it. I can say that I have not done the full analysis to understand the EPD availability in the region to understand if precast would be appropriate here. So I think there just needs to be a little bit more analysis there. You mentioned concrete product in one section. The definition should be in whatever it's first mentioned, or not the definition, the product. If we need to clarify that, I think we can. The exception for steel based on cost is, I understand the concern here. I think that this, we tried to come up with a similar aspect for that 50 cubic yards of concrete, so that it's somewhere in the same realm of, if you're using so much, if you're not using very much of this product, it doesn't need to comply. I think from a plans reviewer standpoint, you generally understand how much steel is in a project based on the total project cost that is associated on the plan at plan check. When you get into construction, obviously all the cost change things happen, but I think that you need to go back to that stage if we're talking about kind of how to implement this. I think we can only really do the plan that's set up at permit. So that's where I would say that, you know, the design team's generally going to know if it's about 5%, the steel is about 5% of the total project value. And then in terms of the code reviewer tracking this, I think it was said before that it's really a design phase aspect that needs to be tracked and verified that this is happening, and the confirmation comes from the design team, either from a letter. So I think we had changed the language a little bit to say confirmation of the product's EPDs shall be provided to the AHJ prior to certificate of occupancy. And that confirmation of the product's EPDs doesn't mean it has to be the product's EPDs. We could have a letter that's signed by the architect or an engineer. It could be a letter in a table of products, a top sheet, however you want to see it. I think that from a general enforcement process, plans reviewers can confirm this by looking at the EPD requirements that are in the specifications. Division 1 would likely note that the EPD would be part of that submittal review process. Site inspectors can request to see the EPDs when they're on site, just as they might ask for the concrete strength testing reports or NFRC certificates for site-built windows, things like that. It's not something that inspectors have to necessarily track every single piece of documentation. It's more of spot check. And at the end of a project, if the building isn't in compliance, you had mentioned, AHJs often have fine structures for non-life safety violations. So if a site-built window doesn't have an NFRC certificate, they might fine the project instead of requiring that the windows are replaced 100%. So I think that there's structures that are set up that can work within this non-life safety code violation if that comes up. And then I think there's, in any sort of process, we have to work with what we have. There's always going to be a concern that, okay, they took out the LED lamps after occupancy. What do you do at that point? If somebody wants to skirt the rules, they will. And I think that a lot of this will be solved through education. As this comes into play and as inspectors become more familiar with the code, they're going to understand that there are or are not concrete EPDs within 100 miles of a site. And that's going to change over time as more EPDs come on the market because of Buy Clean, Buy Fair, because of this code, if this moves forward. So I think that there's opportunities to work with the state legislation to coordinate with the Building Code Council around some of these aspects. Reporting could be done through that public database that's being developed. So I think that's an option. I think that there's enough structures in place that this can move forward. It's a matter of kind of the details of how an AHJ wants to implement it. Micah, did I answer or address all of your concerns there?
You did cover quite a bit.
Whether you agree or not.
Some of it I'll struggle with. You know, you're talking about a fine structure through a municipal jurisdiction. A lot of those for an NOV, notice of violation on a project even, you're talking maybe a few $100, $1,000. I mean, when you're talking about a project that's over 50,000 square feet, that's lunch money, you know, for their crew for one day. It's nothing. So those fines would be irrelevant to capture this. I don't see jurisdictions holding up, you know, certificate of occupancies for this. It's pretty rare that they do that anyway, because we get yelled at a lot for that. I guess my question is, when you're talking about this submitted documentation, even to the inspector, we're not verifying anything. I mean, they could submit us documentation and we don't have to read it, is what this indicates, which may not be achieving your goal either. Again, it's just one of those items that seems like another, and I'll beat on that a little bit, unfunded mandate for jurisdictions. You know, I know a lot of jurisdictions, they get significant pushback when they try to raise permit fees. And so they have to go to their general fund to supplement permitting, which really shouldn't occur, but it does. And this is another one of those items where, hey, it's going to take the code official or the reviewer additional time, but we can't charge for it. And I'd strongly urge against this. I know where you're trying to go. I'm not against the concepts of this. I just believe it should be at a higher level with products. And I'm pretty sure those are guided or regulated by Department of Commerce on what can and cannot be sold in the state of Washington. And I think that's where this needs to reside and not in the building code. It's just the wrong place. Like I said, I'm not against what you're trying to do in the direction this is going. It's just the wrong location for it. So thank you very much. I think the code language is not bad. You've got it in correct language. I did have one item where you got a few language of must. Maybe that should be changed to shall to be consistent throughout. But other than that, overall, just not the right place for it. But thank you for answering the questions and taking the time to bring it back.
Thank you, Micah and Webley. Okay, Rachel, please.
Good morning. I am Rachel Jamison, Vice President of Markets and Sustainability with the American Wood Council. We represent 86% by volume of U.S. wood products made in the United States. I'm grateful for the opportunity to speak with you today. I want to strongly oppose this proposal brought forward to you by the Carbon Leadership Forum and the New Buildings Institute. We first want to recognize that there is indeed an urgent a need to act on climate change. The American Wood Council has been acting with urgency on data collection and other initiatives. Decarbonizing the built environment is very much going to be necessarily a part of how we address the challenge of climate change. Some questions have been raised about the news section on wood in this combined version and how industry was engaged in this edition. I can put it simply, we were not. In fact, the language comes from a House bill that didn't make it out of committee 2 years in a row, and wherein we have been working in what we thought was good faith with the proponents on language that was workable. As has been articulated by several other speakers, the building code is not the right place for this right to regulate carbon. This language in front of you has been tried, and as I said, has not moved forward. It's been put in front of the Washington State Legislature 2 years in a row. Both years, as I mentioned, it's not made it out of committee. State senators, after last session, have articulated an intent to work with industry and NGOs in the interim on a policy that is collaborative, science, and data-based, and that represents the best thinking of all impacted parties. The American Wood Council has been eagerly awaiting this opportunity. For the language to emerge in this context is not in good faith regarding processes that have already been discussed. This process was put forward, I should note, in front of the ICC by the same proponents. There too, it did not move forward and was met with significant pushback, as there also it was articulated the code is not the appropriate place. This is an above code proposal that should be heard and is being heard in more appropriate forums. For example, it's being heard right now in ASHRAE 189.1 Work Group 8. As you know, ASHRAE 189.1 is a green building standard. To date, after months and months of discussion, there are no less than 5 options that are still, without agreement, being discussed there. We strongly ask that this proposal not move forward. Rather, we request that you allow time for the other ongoing legislative processes to be completed and a more robust stakeholder initiative be initiated so that we can pursue policies that are collaborative, inclusive, transparent, and rightly placed. Thank you again for the opportunity today to speak.
Thank you, Rachel. Senator Wilson, please.
Well, thank you. Actually, Rachel made several of the comments that I was going to make, but I'd like to reiterate that there was a letter written to the Building Code Council on behalf of a couple of senators questioning basically whether or not the council has the authority to move forward with this. There was, if you look at, well, first of all, I missed the first part of the meeting because I had another meeting to attend this morning. So I don't know whether you have actually addressed the letter. But this was over a month ago that the letter went to you. And it is questioning the authority of the TAG committee to begin with. And then it talks about the International Building Code and the RCW 19.27.020, particularly section number 4, to eliminate restrictive, obsolete, conflicting, duplicating, and unnecessary regulations and requirements, which could unnecessarily increase construction costs or retard the use of new materials and methods of installation, or provide unwarranted preferential treatment to types or classes of materials or products or methods of construction, which is what the letter is addressing, is whether or not this is providing providing preferential treatment. I also looked up the bill that was just referred to is exactly that. It was presented in 2021 and died in approps. And then in very early on in the session, by the way, which means that they had no intention of passing it. And again, submitted it in the following year, and it died. It didn't even get out of committee on February 3rd. So it died in committee. So there is no intention of the legislature to look forward to this now. And I know that it's been referred to a couple of times here as if it moving forward. But either way, it is the legislature's prerogative to do this. And again, I see where this TAG group and this Building Code Council is going beyond what the legislature intends. So I think we need to go back again. The letter was not addressed. I'd like to know whether you find whether there is existing authority to do this. And then finally, I'd like to know in all of this that you're changing and all of the rules and regulations, what percentage of this in Washington state greenhouse gas emissions, what is the percentage that we would be saving? Because as we all know, we are only 0.3% global emissions right now. So what percentage to all of this that you're working on right now would that reduce? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Senator Wilson. And just to reiterate what was said earlier, in this, we did establish that under the rulemaking authority of the State Building Code Council, that at the TAG level, we do not have the authority. We are technical advisors to the council. So our goal here today, in my role as chair, I've been advised to move forward and give fair consideration for all proposals. To my knowledge, there's not a docketing process that would have eliminated this or other proposals that we've also given fair consideration to. So we are taking action today. It's our intent. And we assume there will be a split vote on this, and those actions will be approved with modification, or disapprove, so that we can inform the committee. It's my intent as chair to be fully transparent, and I've asked over the previous sessions to be held accountable for running a fair process. And in that, we are trying to focus on, at the stakeholder level, on the technical merits of this, so we can best advise our at the committee level, where I also have raised questions to make sure that it's clearly laid out what the legislative mandate is, and combined the process and procedural considerations with the mandate and with the stakeholder engagement here. So that's my intent, and again, thank you everyone for the feedback, and that's been under advisement that we'll move forward with this consideration.
Can I have a follow-up?
Yes, please.
So when was the letter responded to? At what point was it responded to, and to whom was it responded? And the other is, we just heard that there was no stakeholder involvement in this. So when did you plan on including the stakeholders?
So there's two things there. I'm not qualified to speak to the, I will defer to the staff and to our legal, obviously, and when and where they want to respond to that letter. The second part is our goal here is to conduct as much public process and be fair and transparent as we can. And I include that today. Thank all those, and Rachel, because this consideration of the timber was requested by this TAG, and this is the first public forum that we've had to begin that process and continue on if it moves to, as it moves through the committee and potentially to the council level. Stoyan, do you want to speak at all to the request for the response to the letter?
Well, Senator Wilson sent me so many, and I'm confused. Which one is it? I think I responded to. There was one from Senator Wilson and Representative Huff, I believe. And there was one before, so I responded to both of them. And as far as I remember, I provided some brief introduction how the process works. But again, I wasn't I wasn't prepared for this meeting to talk about these letters. We have like 10 comments related to these two proposals, and I did post the comments for the first meeting, but the technical advisory group didn't respond individually to either one of these letters.
Senator Wilson.
Well, I do have the response from Stoyan, but I'm asking, when did he respond to the legislators in that letter? My request was for you to please look at the letter. Yes, there have been 2 letters urging you to look at both of the letters that were sent by legislators concerning the building code. I'm specifically speaking to the one that came about this concrete today that I sent on May 6th. Or sorry, the Jim Honeyford and Mark Schessler sent on May 6th. So have you responded back to those legislators? That's my question.
Yes, I believe so.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Senator Wilson. Dave, please.
Yeah, good morning. My name is Dave Walsh. I am a registered architect with over 21 years of combined working experience, both as an architect, but also as the former director of sustainability for the largest general contractor headquartered in the Pacific Northwest. I also led the embodied carbon calculation effort on the Helen Summers State Office Building, which was the first state project which collected EPDs for concrete and measured the carbon reductions. I'm speaking today as an independent sustainability consultant with Dave Walsh Consulting, offering my professional opinion and not representing any other organization. I want to acknowledge some of the changes in the second revision, which improve the proposed language and address some of my points in my May 8th letter emailed to the TAG. I appreciate the exclusion of small area projects and projects with relatively small amounts of covered materials, which focus on projects that will have a more significant impact. I also appreciate exclusions of precast concrete, shotcrete, and auger cast piles. This recognizes that not all concrete applications, even those with the same strength, have the same ability to reduce carbon due to constructability reasons. Finally, I appreciate the intent to equally focus on all structural materials, concrete, wood, and steel, instead of just focusing on 2 of the 3 as in the previous versions. I do have some questions and comments about this current revision. First, does the definition of primary structural frame include the floor assembly and not just the foundation, columns, and beams which hold up that floor assembly? For example, does it include post-tension concrete floor slabs, a CLT floor panel, or a composite concrete steel deck and topping slab? If so, this needs to be clarified, and steel decking should be added as one of the covered materials. I did have a question about the timing between when this code language is potentially approved and the first date this will be enforced. I think Roger commented that the first time that things would need to be submitted was approximately January 2025. I'll note that even though that may be the time that it would be submitted, the general contractor would have to have confidence at the time of bidding that the EPDs are available and ready to submit. So actually the window of action, I think, for a contractor is having those EPDs at bid time. While some manufacturers are ready to go today, others will need a year's worth of data collection to even begin to have EPDs. We need to give an ample runway for smaller manufacturers to get up to speed, which will result in more options and cost competitiveness at bid time. And then finally, while I understand the idea of providing EPDs at the time of certificate of occupancy, I do wonder how unforeseen situations will be handled. Micah kind of touched on this, and I think Webley touched on it as well. But for example, if there's an unforeseen supply chain or labor disruption, and alternate products must be used, and for some reason a 75% threshold was not met, would the C of O, certificate of occupancy, be held up indefinitely? And what would the remedy be? So thanks again for the opportunity to make comments.
Thank you, Dave.
Can
see-
I share
Please.
what the definition of primary structural frame?
Please.
I too had the same question about like PT slabs and other things. So there's a couple of things in the code that are described under the primary structural frame. And this is where I wasn't quite sure if lateral was included in there, which is why we included it in this code language in front of you. So primary structural frame is the primary structural frame shall include all of the following structural members. 1, the columns. 2, the structural members having direct connections to the columns, including girders, beams, trusses, and spandrels. 3, members of the floor construction and roof assembly having direct connection to the columns. And that's where I think PT comes into play. 4, bracing systems that are essential to the vertical stability of the primary structural frame under gravity loading shall be considered as part of the primary structural frame, whether or not the bracing members carries gravity loads. So hopefully that helps.
Yeah, no, that is
something
helpful
else.
to have that full definition. My only comment now that I hear that full definition is that you might consider including steel decking in a composite deck, because if you're going to request EPDs for the concrete or the wood assembly in total for the floor assembly, then the total assembly for composite situation should be covered as well for parity.
Yeah, I wondered that as well. And I think that might be covered by the members of the floor construction.
Oh, okay.
But it's a valid question.
Yeah, a little bit of clarification.
More and more composite sections.
Clarification would be great. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you both. Okay, TK, sorry, that's what I see on the screen.
Sorry about the initials there. I'm Tom Kozitsky. I'm with APA, the Engineered Wood Association. We're headquartered in Tacoma, Washington, and we represent the North American engineered wood industry. And I'm speaking today in opposition to the combined proposal. We are also concerned about the timing of the process that essentially adds engineered wood products and a burden on our industry to the building code. We do question how the proposals, and specifically the combined proposal, will work in terms of enforcement. And I think several have mentioned that there's a potential discrepancy that can exist between what is reviewed in the plan review process and then what the building inspector is actually going to be inspecting and identifying in the field. In the case of commodity products, it's not uncommon, even in smaller buildings, to see multiple products that get procured well after the plan review process. And so the question arises, what does the inspector do when they see, let's say, half of a material out there that is matching the design EPDs and another material that is not corresponding with the design EPDs? It's common to see not only different manufacturers of products on a job site, but products from different areas of the country or Canada. So that does happen, and I think that's an issue that needs to be considered. There is some other areas that deal with definitions. What is the definition of engineered wood products? Are open web wood metal plate connected trusses involved in that, or are they not? And then I do have a question regarding the discussion that just took place on the bracing materials between the floor supports. If those are wood structural panels, plywood or OSB, which can be used in that type of an application, I think it needs to be made clear. There's some confusion there potentially for the building inspectors and plan reviewers to have to deal with. That concludes my comment.
Okay, thank you, Tom. Okay, Bruce, please.
Just a second, sorry. My apologies.
No worries. Welcome.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Todd and everyone, thank you very much for the time to make these comments. Bruce Chatton, Executive Director, Washington Aggregates and Concrete Association. A lot of the discussion today has kind of really touched on some of the comments I was going to make, because my comments were more about the process as well and concerns. But let me kind of just see if I can go in and out of what I had already previously written and raise some of the same concerns without dwelling on them. Outside of these hearings, as Senator Wilson indicated, there's been no outreach to primary and impacted stakeholders to participate in modifications of specific language on the proposals. And that pretty much ignores the expertise and experience of the stakeholders, as you've been hearing today, in the code development process, and to reconcile language that might become better at some point. The proponents clearly have greater access to the tag process and are able to modify their proposals at will without any discussions on the stakeholders. So why are substantial changes made outside of having substantial changes made and do not include impacted stakeholders? We've talked about the actions of the tag to be able to consider modifying, moving forward, taking action. But when does the tag consider or recognize the proposal as presented as not viable or ready for consideration? The significant rewrite efforts of these proposals suggest they've been poorly written, impractical to be implemented, does not understand the industry is trying to influence. And at what point does the tag recognize failed proposals, table them, and recommend to the council no further action be taken? In the remarks today, it's becoming pretty clear this process is determined to recommend the proposals to move forward prior to any comments being made on the modified proposals. There may be a split decision, but it's kind of clear that this is going to move forward in some degree. Is this consistent with the expectation and expertise of a technical advisory group review? And we agree with TN's point of order on his comments. Appreciating the discussion today on the new proposal being presented in the middle of an active review process, one of the concerns is there is no notice of any new proposal being considered and provided less than 2 days to review the new proposal, as well as the substantial modifications to the original proposals. At the May 25th hearing, as you know, the tag and stakeholders indicated they would like to see an engineered wood proposal. It wasn't due to overwhelming input as indicated by proponents earlier. The current proponents just simply indicated they had an engineered wood proposal worked up and ready to be introduced if the tag wanted one. The tag decision was followed by a clear determination by the director. The timeline to accept new proposals was missed, and the council was unable to consider and introduce a new engineered wood proposal as the April 8th timeline had passed. It would have to be introduced in the next code cycle. This is in direct conflict with what the determination of the director was said. You've talked about that today. And my question was going to be, I was going to ask what changed, but as I went through some of the earlier proposals, according to the website, the title of the concrete and steel proposal was modified to include engineered wood and is shown to have been submitted on April 8th by the proponents. This is clearly incorrect. So given the purposeful modification, what is the formal process to introduce new proposals consistent with established submittal requirements and timelines? Or is there a formal process for consideration and acceptance of a new proposal at any time during an active review process? Today's discussion suggests the process is a bit fluid and undefined. A number of people have indicated House Bill 1103 and properly represented as being failed. It has not gotten through the legislature twice. That does not mean it has any real value if the legislator has not acted on it. So we can't simply lift things from bills that did not move forward and move them forward because somebody likes the idea. It also indicates reporting per buy clean and buy fair. Our industry rejects these reporting schemes as they are far more than just reporting. and I'll provide further clarification and written comments. 1103 failed, did not pass out of committee. And how does this failed track record give merit to a proposal? Consideration of 1103 now and would is way out of. So on behalf of the stakeholders, businesses, and legislators participating and monitoring this process, there are many questions on process that considers unqualified proposals and continues to modify them until they become acceptable to get something through the process. Given all the concerns with the process, lack of equitable access to stakeholders, ineligible proposals being submitted, and modified titles in original documents, we formally ask the TAG and related subcommittees to reject all three proposals and provide a no further recommendation for consideration. Thanks very much.
Okay, thank you, Bruce. And there were a lot of points that I think are established that will be moving forward in any recommendation to the committee. The one I wanted to pull out of there, Bruce, was maybe a question to Stoyan or others regarding if there's a docketing process that got us here today and why we're considering any proposal.
Right, and I appreciate that, Todd, and that's what made what I had written before a little bit difficult to kind of meander through without trying to be too redundant. I guess to the comment of, there's a recommendation to move forward. My concern was that was said even before we got to the public hearing for comments today on the modified proposals and the new proposal. So to me, as I heard it, it seemed pretty clear where we were going to be going to, or what the action would be taken at the end of this proposal, even before you received additional comments.
I really appreciate that, Bruce. And where I was trying to make that distinction in line earlier was these deep discussions on process, mandate, procedure is appropriate to get feedback from the appointed council members at that committee level. Whereas here, as chair, I've been focusing on gathering as much public process and the technical merits of these processes of these submitted proposals and giving a fair public hearing. And in that, I hope we've done that over 3 weeks and 3 lengthy meetings. All points heard there, and we need to find a way to pass all of these concerns on to the committee level. But if Stoyan or others would like to speak to that docketing process now, or simply take that as input, and that's appropriate, that we're going to review that at the committee level.
I want to make a few points.
Thank you.
I consider my job, helping with adoption and coordinating the process, and it seems like folks started using the process like a bubble gum. What I mean by that, the process is clear. Everything is outlined on the website. The bylaws are there. We have all documents posted on the website. For this particular meeting, the modified proposals were posted at the same day I received the proposals. I clearly identified which proposal meets the procedure and which one doesn't. So for the wood, I intentionally repeated my comment. Everything else, I don't see issues with the process, and I don't understand why the process is used all the time. The technical advisory group is technical advisory. It's specific in the title of this group, and the technical advisory group provides technical recommendations. If there are unclear sections of the process, I've been always open. I don't think any of you can say that I didn't respond to your inquiry. I didn't provide you additional information. The website, compared to the last code adoption cycle, I think you have all information there versus a little bit previously. So I don't really understand what the issue is with that. And if Senator Wilson is here, I found the letter, so I can. She always surprises me with this request, but I think I found the letter. So if she's here, I can provide her a more detailed answer.
Go ahead. I see Senator Wilson turned her video on.
I'm here.
Okay, so here is what I received. I have one letter that was received on May 3rd. And here is the representatives that signed the letter. And this letter doesn't have anything related to the steel and concrete proposal. And
Correct.
I received one from you and Representative Herb. I'm sorry, I'm on the wrong one. So here is what is related to this proposal. Actually, it's 96, and I provided. Here is my response. I think I addressed this very briefly at the council meeting in May. So I didn't post these particular letters for these particular proposals and this TAC meeting because my understanding was that you wanted to raise the concern, and the concern was raised. And again, all comments that hit similar points, everything was posted on the website. So, I mean, if there is a letter that I missed, I apologize, but this is all I have.
Those are the letters I'm referring to, but I didn't see that that was actually the actual questions that we were asking, that whether or not there was authority to do this.
Well, the authority in the RCW 1927-020, I think it was discussed several times, and it was your main point in this letter. And again, I apologize, I didn't mention that you asked the same question, but I saw you were attending the meeting, so I was expecting you will be talking about it, and you did actually. But
okay, and you sent that back to the other two senators?
Yes, I sent some information to them as well. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Again, the other two, well, I'm not sure they're senators though.
The others are representatives.
Representatives, yes. So they didn't ask me for proposals 95 and 96. They had questions related to the adoption of the commercial energy code.
Correct.
And I sent them a short response, and most of the questions, actually all of the questions, will be answered in our final submittal in the rulemaking document. So it's still coming.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, thank you, Stoyan. Bruce, are we okay?
Yes, sir. Thank you. I appreciate your efforts, and I appreciate the clarifications on the process. But as I think as many have commented on, there seems to be a lot of confusion or concern on the process on how we get from one place to the other. Even though the tag is technical and advisory, it seems to be a point in the process where they could make their recommendation, as you've tabled things in the past, to make do not consider going forward to any of the other subcommittees. It seems that would be a process that you might have available to you.
When the TAC makes a recommendation, any recommendation, it goes to the BFP, in this case, to the BFP committee. The BFP committee can accept the recommendation and refer it to the council, or the BFP committee can end up with a different recommendation, not agreeing with the technical advisory group. And then it goes to the council, and the council will do the same. The council will review the TAC recommendation, the council will review the BFP committee recommendation, and the council will make the decision. The decision could be, okay, we will include these proposals in the initial submittal with the CR 102, and then we'll post the proposals for comment period and testimony. In this case, the council will receive more information, how good these proposals are or how bad these proposals are. This is the standard procedure. Or the council can say, okay, go back to the technical advisory group and review again, provide more technical expertise. For example, that's also possible, okay? Or the technical advisory group can say, okay, we agree with the BFP committee, which suggested or recommended disapproval of this. So the council is the entity that makes the decisions.
Mm-hmm.
The technical advisory group is intended to provide technical expertise.
And
This is the first step of the process. There are 3 or 4 more steps during which testimony and comments will be received.
yes, and I appreciate that. And with the technical advisory group, you know, when you have a proposal before you that has to go through so much substantial rewrite based on input, it would seem that there's an opportunity for them to be able to say, this is not ready. This is not ready to be able to move forward because it's incomplete. Even the proponents have indicated not all the research is done, and there's lots of unanswered questions. As the gentleman from the code official said, there's just too many things there that are in play, Mr. Walsh, on what happens when. That's a concern.
This is an option. This is an option. It's an open option. It goes with the disapproval. Okay, so the TAC recommends disapproval because it's not ready yet. This is an option. This is why the technical advisory groups were established. They need to provide the first level of technical expertise. They are the technical experts here. They are the professionals.
And that's a great statement, Stoyan, and I agree 100%. And that's why I'm sort of kind of unclear as to why that technical expertise isn't more readily available to be able to say, this proposal doesn't have a lot of credit or it needs to be reworked. I appreciate the process. It's going to move forward. I understand that. And it sounds like it's going to go all the way through the process unless this thing comes back with recommendations from the council. The challenge is at the end of the day, the stakeholders, the end users, the designers, the contractors, the material suppliers, we're going to have to live with it. Perfect or imperfect. And that's a challenge because as Senator Wilson said, we're already in front of the legislature with this on better proposals to be able to, that they have rejected now over 4 sessions.
My job is again to coordinate the process and have an open process that will allow everybody to participate. I can't predict what the final council decision or the technical advisory group decision will be.
Yep, no, I appreciate that, and you are doing your job for sure, and so is Todd. So I thank you for the process. This has been the opportunity to do it. It would have been nice to have been more involved in some of the modification discussions, so we could get a better outcome. But I do thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay, thank you, Bruce.
You bet. Thank you, Todd.
Thank you, Stan. Okay, Michael, please.
Yeah, so good morning, everybody, and thanks for the opportunity to speak. First of all, let me first introduce myself. I'm Mike Ennis, on staff with the Association of Washington Business. AWB is the state's largest and oldest business association. We have about 7,000 companies who belong to the association. I do want to echo all the comments that Bruce made. We share those concerns. I also want to refer back to the letter that AWB has sent to the TAG and to the SBCC. Hopefully you've received that and that's been made available to you. It is signed by over 50 stakeholders on the business and labor side, all in opposition to these proposals. The one area that I want to focus my comments here, and it's referenced in the letter also, but it's the lack of analysis on the cost impact. It seems a little weird to me that proponents can claim there is no cost impact in their application, and then the TAG just simply washes their hands of, or it appears the TAG just simply washes their hands with any analysis on whether there's a cost impact to these proposals. There's no small business impact statement that's been completed, and it appears that you're going to move something forward without fully understanding what the cost impacts are going to be from these proposals. That's very weird, bizarre to me that you would do that. It would seem to me that you would have an obligation to understand what these impacts are going to be before moving anything forward. And I don't think that analysis has been done. So I'd just like to note our objections to these proposals and ask you not to move them forward. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mike. Tim, please.
Yeah, this is Tim with AGC. I just want to say kudos to Rachel, Bruce, Mike, and Senator Wilson. All your comments were very articulate. The question I have for the proponent is, Wembley, what's your response to what you've been hearing for the last half hour?
Okay, Webley? You want to respond? You're on mute, or at least we can't hear you. You're not on mute. Yeah, I see you're unmuted, but you're not. Kind of. Okay, well, we'll come back. Tim, anything else, and we'll come back when we can.
No, I just want her to respond. I mean, Rachel especially was very articulate at just talking about why this is the wrong place, what the legislature's done, what the process has been so far. Why is she coming to the State Building Code Council?
Can you hear me at all?
Yep. Hi, good, Webley.
Okay, great. It is a really wide question, so it sounds like, why are you coming to the Building Code Council is the question I'm going to address here. It's because we work within the building codes, so that's where our focus has been. There's focus that's happening at the policy level, and I think that we need both. We need to work at the policy level as well as the code level. As you know, the building code is the very worst building that you can build, and so we think that that needs to be addressed so that we can improve it for everybody. And within embodied carbon, we have an opportunity to address that within the materials. So that's the general reason why we're working in this realm.
Okay, thank you, Webley. Okay, thank you, Tim. Anything else?
No, thank you.
Okay, appreciate it. John, please.
Yeah, good morning. Sorry, I just wanted to address one technical issue. Was the question about the primary structural frame. And ordinarily, floor systems that span between beams would not be considered primary structural frame. So the question got raised about CLT panels, floor panels. Depends on your system, but generally those are supported on something else. And so the CLT panels would not be primary structural frame. Same thing for, as someone pointed out, a steel deck. Say take a steel deck with truss, metal trusses supporting them. They span between beams or girders or whatever you want to call them. Those ordinarily, again, would not be considered primary structural frame. It's only if those pieces connect directly to columns. There's some real question about PT. How that, is that, would we look at that as truly a connection directly to the column? And I think I have to give my standard answer. It kind of depends. I think for those who are asking that be clarified, that probably need, if you intend to include floor slabs, then those need to be more clearly called out.
Great comments, John. Roger, I saw you put your hand up. Do you have a response to John or addition? Sorry.
Yeah, and John, what I actually, I agree that definition of primary, what is it, primary, what's the right term? Primary structural frame. What I would like to see in the document, and I guess I will take advantage of the floor to suggest that my understanding of the tag is to, if we think that there should be additional edits to this is the right format. So if we think that we should reword some pieces of this, this is the venue for us to do that. I was just looking, John, if there was a definition of primary structure. I mean, when I do a proposal, my proposal is for the primary structure, and that includes all of the floors, all of the columns, all of the lateral force resisting systems, and the foundation. I don't know in the code, and I was just starting to look, if that definition is there. I am sure that it is someplace. I'm just not exactly sure where. So I think a solution to clarify that would be to add a definition of primary structure, and that or just to spell out the primary structure, including all floors, columns, walls, and foundations. So
yeah, I would suggest if the tag wants to do that, not to introduce a new definition that could be confusing.
Okay.
Primary structural frame and primary structure, people will start confusing and making the two the same.
Right.
So if you're going to spell, I think it's better to spell it out. The other potential, and I haven't thought this all the way through, would be to include secondary frame. Secondary. That's a reference to that sort of reference that in chapter 6, but which is where this mostly gets used.
Secondary framing would be like steel backup supports for cladding, that type of thing.
That kind of, again, I think the definition of the code is anything that's not primary, which is very broad.
Right, and that's where I think the intent of this modification was to be very specific that we are looking at the primary structure. And so I would, and I know that there are other hands up and I don't want to jump in front, but to clarify a number of them, I might propose a change to what's on the screen right there. Primary structure, including all floors, columns, walls, and foundation.
And so I'm showing my bias here because we are talking about structure and technical here, but Don, Micah, do you want to just jump in as long as we're discussing this? My apologies, Larry and G.
I just wanted to mention the two definitions in question. Primary structural frame and secondary structural members are defined in the IBC. And I'm not sure if Roger's change there would clarify the difference in the two and how this would apply. I think that has to be vetted a whole lot more, would be my 2 cents. I'll leave it at that for now. Thanks.
Well, that's why, Mike, I think John suggested also to not add a definition of primary structure. But
I think if you get into adding laundry lists of stuff of what is or what is not, we try to frown on that in code development. Starting, if you could scroll down just a little bit to the section I think in question here, right there under primary structural frame. I think once you get into identifying each system, or trying to identify each system that will fall into this, then it becomes a problem of, well, if it's not on the list, it doesn't fall into that and does not leave room for interpretation by the code official or even with the designer collaboration to determine what is or what is not included in this this requirement. So again, I just want to steer away from the laundry list.
But
you want the original definition as shown here.
Yeah, if the intent is to include something of the secondary structural members, then we need to find a way to incorporate that term into this without trying to do a laundry list would be my recommendation. But I don't have that language on the fly.
Micah, I don't disagree with avoiding a laundry list, but if we said what I initially said was the primary structure, including all floors, columns, walls, and foundations. Is that, well, yes, it's a list. It's not are you concerned about the ability to interpret that?
I don't think it's the interpretation question. It's again, you're combining primary structural frame members and secondary structural frame members in what is required to meet this standard. I mean, at that point, you just need, I think your intention there would be to require all products that are concrete or steel or wood to meet this. But I think that's going way beyond the intent of the code change proposal.
And I don't think that is the intent. And I think that and in fact, the reason that the primary structure got included is it is not the suggestion that we are going to do all of for concrete, for instance, it's not all of the sidewalks, it's not concrete curbs, it's not It is the primary structural elements that are supporting gravity loads and lateral loads. I mean,
if I could throw in here, Stoyan, can you please scroll down to the definition for secondary structural members, and maybe Roger, this would address both yours and Micah's issues.
Right, that's what I was getting at. Sorry, thanks for having him scroll.
And as you're doing that, Don, do you want to jump in on that also?
Yeah, I'm just adding the one thing that in it, you actually have it back up in your definition of primary structure. In order to maintain stability, you have to have a diaphragm, and which in your floor systems are your diaphragms. And so those, you do not have a stable building without the floor systems to hold them together.
I will say that having been the author of that language, that was not the intent. But if as a fallback, if you have to, maybe you have to use that. But I think secondary structure gets you there.
This may be a different conversation that's worthy of the tag taking up. This definition, John, as you were describing secondary structure, is contradictory to some other places how I've seen primary structure defined, and that there may be a confusion issue in the industry there of that topic.
I mean, from a code definition, this is all structural stuff. So
yeah.
I mean, as I read the primary structural members and secondary structural members, I guess, John, and maybe this is a difference in how these terms are used in the code. I think the primary and secondary, that's what we are talking about. Mm-hmm. I'm used to having secondary structural members be, the big one is structural steel that's used as a backup for cladding, you know, at storefronts and that kind of stuff. Yeah. And I don't see how that would be included in this.
That's correct. My use of it has always been this way as shown in the code.
Okay. So but, would you agree, John, that if we said primary and secondary structural members?
If that's what's intended, yes, that would probably cover everything you want.
I would agree with that. So we're here in the tag committee where, from my experience, we are making edits to this proposal that we think may help this move forward, or it may help resolve conflicts that people may have. So I would primary structural frame or primary and secondary structural frame, and then delete the lateral force resisting system and foundations. Are foundations included in that, John, in your opinion? Or should we keep the foundations in here? So
I think it's probably clear to, I mean, I would consider foundation part of the structural frame, but primary structural frame, but it's technically iffy by definition, so keep it in there.
Okay, so I think, Stoyan, you're editing, you can get rid of the lateral force resisting system because that's covered under the bracing part of the secondary structural frame.
Yeah, I think it's clear to call out foundations for primary, or for in a context of superstructure and substructure.
Yeah, and then I would just, as we're starting, I think that change would need to be included in 095, 096, and then if we were to move forward with the combined, it would need to be included in the combined as well. So.
Roger, this is Micah. I'm not opposed to these. However, I do think you should keep primary structural frame and secondary structural members as terms separate, they are two separately defined terms. And if you want them to be per their definitions, then we should separate those. Just one of those little technical things.
So say per whatever that section was on that was just
it's well, that would be in the definitions. You would keep primary structural frame, secondary structural members, and foundations is how that should be worded. So comma in between the two.
Okay, all right, I appreciate
that would be my recommendation if you're changing it.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, good. Anyone else on this topic, primary, secondary? Rachel, did you raise your hand in the middle of this conversation?
I wanted to just make comments around language changes, given that it doesn't appear that there's an opportunity for contemplation that does not move forward and that it stay in the legislative arena where we hope to have a more robust stakeholder conversation. So given that what I'm hearing on this call, I have other revisions that we've submitted through the legislative process 2 years in a row on the bills that didn't make it out of their various committees.
Okay, I appreciate that. Again, that's absolutely welcome procedural. And this is, the first time we are looking at some of it, especially the timber side. So as we take action here today, there's a lot of opportunity to continue to work with the committee, the proponent, so forth. So thank you for that, though. Okay, are we okay that this propagates through the other sections?
I'm fine going forward with Jay and Larry, and then I have another proposed change to address a concern that was raised.
Okay, okay, I see what you're saying. I agree. Jay, sorry about that. Please go ahead.
It's okay, thank you. Quick introduction, my name is Jay Hindmarsh. I'm an architect at the Miller Hall Partnership here in Seattle. I have over 22 years of professional experience. Thank you to the TAG for the opportunity today. Voice support and continued refinement for the proposed amendments requiring EPDs for concrete, steel, and engineered wood products. I did want to talk really briefly about two topics brought up in the discussion today, which is great. Kind of the technical aspects of the proposals and also the intent authority of this group. I speak today as a signatory of the American Institute of Architects 2030 commitment. This is a coalition of more than 1,000 AE companies committed to reaching carbon neutrality by 2030, and also a signatory of the Architecture Materials Pledge, which explicitly includes tenets to support climate health, prioritizing materials that accelerate the drive to reduce carbon emissions, explicitly using EPDs and whole building life cycle assessment. So we live in a market-driven economy, clearly, which requires signals to facilitate change. We've seen examples of this in our state with policies restricting hazardous chemicals and consumer products in baby toys and restricting HFCs and foam insulation. And the market has responded, which is great. And I think this is an opportunity for the Washington State Building Code to amplify the call that's being made every day by practitioners, architects, engineers, and designers across this country and asking for reporting transparency in our building products. I also want to paraphrase IBC section 101.4 on purpose. And the purpose of this code is providing minimum standards to safeguard life and health and public welfare by regulating and controlling design, construction, and the quality of materials. And the purpose of this code is to provide for and promote health, safety, and welfare of the general public. And I think they'll speak to kind of the purview and allowability of these proposed amendments to move forward. And just in closing, I want to say that EPDs really provide us as designers a harmonized pathway to measure, manage, and reduce our greenhouse gas impact emissions. So I appreciate the time today to share. Thank you.
Thank you, Jay. Larry, do you have something on the technical side? Yeah, please.
One thing I wanted to say is what the proponent said. She said this was the worst building type. I think that's the poorest language I've ever heard. You got to remember, Washington State Code is about the most restricted code in the union of building a building. And so if anything, this is our base code, which is much better than any worse building code. Okay, I think that was struck at us for as much money as this state has spent to get to the level we are. I thought that was really poor. The other thing I want to put forward here is you got to remember that the TAG, the council, is guided by the governor. The governor's put this path forward. And with all of us out here, all the general contractors, all the people that supply these products, our only recourse is with the legislature and the courts, because the deck has been stacked against us. And you can tell by the comments that there isn't anybody really for this in the percentages. except for what we're hearing here. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Larry. Okay, Roger, please.
Yeah, I was actually looking for the language in 1.104 that Jay suggested. So Todd, I had a suggested edit addressing the concerns about the building official and the enforcement of it. If we could go, and I'm actually, let's see, if you go to the concrete section, 1901.8.1, right there, you're just there. Oh, there it is. My proposed change, rather than the last sentence of 8.1, confirmation of the product's EPD shall be provided, I would actually suggest that delete the confirmation of the products and replace that with a letter from the prime design professional confirming the products EPDs shall be provided, which more clarifies, in my opinion, more clearly that we are asking that all that needs to get submitted to the city, to the building official, is a letter from the prime design professional that they have been submitted. And as far as tracking whether it's 50,000 square feet or whether it's 50 cubic yards, 48 cubic yards become 52 cubic yards, the prime design professional is going to confirm, and if it's less than 50 cubic yards, they may very well, their letter may say, these were EPDs were not required because we had exception number 3. So it is up to it is putting the onus on the prime design professional that is writing a letter right prior to C of O that these have been provided. And then again, that edit would be added to the other, either the 095, 096, or if we move forward with the combined and the combined. So my edit, and I'm Stoyan, if you can delete confirmation of the products, those words right there. And then add in a letter from the prime design professional confirming the products.
Roger,
Yeah,
can I make a recommendation that
Sure.
it's either, just looking at the definitions, registered design professional in responsible charge or registered design professional?
okay,
Just because those are definitions.
okay. And if they're definitions, I think that they should be capitalized, I believe.
They just
No,
need to be
they-
italicized.
Yeah. they get it.
Italicized, okay. So that was my other suggested edit, and I'm open to comments or.
Might want to add, Stoyan, add an A after from, a letter from a registered design professional.
Thank you, Roger.
And the intent of that was to hopefully, and I guess I was hoping that I would hear from John and from Micah. Does that more clearly define what that all the building official is looking for is a letter?
I mean, yeah, I mean, that more clearly defines that's what the building official would get. Yeah.
Including, there's been conversations about inspectors out in the field checking EPDs, and I don't see that there's anything in this current document that has inspectors out reviewing EPDs in the field.
Yeah, that might be just a process management from various jurisdictions in the code official. I mean, this does get to a point I made. However, I do want to point out that there are exceptions to the required design professional or registered design professional in chapter 1 already. So again, if a project doesn't have a registered design professional, now you would be requiring a project to provide a letter from one on the products in there. So maybe it's not necessary or something to worry about, but that's just something to think about.
Mike, if the project's bigger than 50,000 square feet, you're going to have a registered design professional.
Yeah.
You hope so.
I think it'll be required by code.
Okay, good points both. Okay.
Anyway.
Any other comment on this? Thank you, Roger. And then ×3, obviously, or wherever appropriate.
Yeah, I was going to say, just make sure that same language gets into each of the sections that has the confirmation of the product requirement to the code official. I think it's in multiple locations, like Todd mentioned. Thanks, Dwayne.
Don, did you have something on that?
Just on the comment, because it's on this page where you're showing it right here. I think the exceptions for the concrete and the reporting from the timber both are going to need some work to make them more applicable or appropriate, I think, for what we're after here. I think when I think about a ready mix concrete plant, they produce shotcrete and auger cast concrete as easily as ready mix. So I'm not sure why those would get why those would be an exception. Maybe that's something for Webley to could comment on. I also think the 100 miles from the project site may have some difficulty in interpretation of how that happens. Is that as the crow flies? Is that by road miles? How is the 100 miles measured? Is a comment I could see people getting tripped up on at some point. I understand the intent of item number 4. I don't know if there's a better way to state that.
Okay.
If I can just respond to the precast, ready mix concrete only, just limiting the number of products that need to comply with this. If the tag is interested in including precast, shotcrete, auger, and other concrete products, I think that's a decision to be made there. And I agree, Dawn, that the 100 miles from the project site could be clarified to say road miles. I don't know if that's a definition, or like traveled miles, perhaps. It could also be based on time, but that's, again, harder to determine.
Road miles might be a good way, because then it's at least clear. And yeah, I would, I mean, I'm not on the tag, so I'll defer to you guys, but I would encourage the precast, shotcrete, and auger cast not be an exception, just because they are very often can be, if they're part of the primary structure, they should be included. And if they're not part of the primary structure, well, then they would not be included. So like a precast column, that should probably be in, but a precast facade system would not be. So I think you get that definition in when you talk about the primary structure. A shotcrete wall is part of the stability of the building, just like an auger cast pile is part of the foundation system.
Todd, if I may respond to that, I know there are people with their hands raised. I completely agree with Don. When we added the primary structure comment, it seems to me like a precast element that is part of the primary structure. The shotcrete basement wall is typically part of the primary structure, and the auger cast pile is most definitely part of the foundation system. So I would, as a member of the tag, I would propose that we get rid of exception number 1, but happy to hear from other tag members about thoughts on that.
Anyone? Go ahead and speak up to that request, please.
Sorry, Todd, I don't know if you're just asking in general, but I'll kind of pop in.
General, yes. Yeah, go ahead.
Sure, thank you. I'm just looking at the structure of what we have down below in 1.1, 1.1, where it talks about cradle to grave. Is there any consideration or reason why cradle to grave, that is, cradle to grave, has not been considered? Not all products perform, but at both levels of grave, cradle to grave and cradle to gate.
Yeah, Bruce, if I can answer that. Not all EPDs include cradle to grave. And so we've just been focusing on that upfront embodied carbon from A1 through A3, cradle to gate.
Okay, I appreciate that. Okay, I'll check with some of our folks and see if that might be a recommendation, because some of our EPDs may go to cradle to grave. So there's no sense to penalize them, if you will, because others don't. And I'm just interpreting there on the fly, but I appreciate A1, A3. I'll check with some folks.
Thank you, Bruce. Probably. Back to Roger's suggestion. Is anyone opposed to removing? I think I heard exceptions for precast and shotcrete. Is that correct? Or remove that whole line?
My proposal would be to remove all of exception number 1.
Okay.
In the concrete.
Are there any opposed to that in this exercise? Okay. Sorry, please strike those. Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Just the last comment I had is down on the wood section. The comments on what gets measured and reported. Let's go down. The items 1 through 4 there. I will defer actually to Micah on this one, but just how do those terms work in terms of what is being tracked and reported in it? Are those that we use the right words and how to describe this?
Can I chime in? I'm from the American Wood Council. I'm happy to speak. Hi, Don. That is actually one of the areas that we would like to see redacted, as it's outside of the scope of ISO 21930, as is the articulated intent of this section. And in order to create a level playing field among the materials, this is, I don't know where some of these come from, but this doesn't really play into the issues at hand. So that was going to be one of my comments as I move to, with the lack of collaborative kind of engagement with impacted industries on this. I do have some editorial comments that would that I'd like to put forward. So should I just jump in now, maybe, since?
Yes, but let's first let's address this. So thank you, Rachel. So speaking to that, is anyone opposed to then striking 1 through 4? Webley, obviously you should respond on this relative to ISO 21930.
Yeah, I'm fine removing it. If it is different than the other requirements, it is associated with by clean by fair. And if we are to keep it, I think it's supposed to say, I think a word was removed here, if available, that information should be reported.
From the
but I agree with Rachel that because it isn't part of ISO and those definitions aren't defined, I'm fine taking it out.
Thanks, Webley.
So would you mind from the word "the" reporting, strike all the way down the list?
Yeah.
Everything?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, Rachel, go ahead.
Yeah, so a couple of others. Right now, all of the materials except for engineered wood are defined. I would suggest adding a definition of engineered wood that includes glulam, CLT, and LVL. Those are the key kind of materials that folks talk about when they talk about mass timber. So let's.
Rachel, sorry to interrupt you on that, though. Isn't that also, well, I'm asking, I should know, is that clearly defined in the definitions? I know it's defined in one of our RCWs.
Engineered wood is clearly defined in an RCW. Can you cite that RCW?
Ooh, not off the top of my head, but yes, there is a, someone can. and it relates to our B&O tax.
So if there could be an opportunity perhaps for another get together wherein we go over some of that and or provide a revision to the scope of that definition for the purposes of this exercise, that would be wonderful.
Okay, is anyone opposed to that? Referencing the RCW definition of engineered wood product in the state of Washington?
I'm not opposed. In fact, I support it. And I think, Rachel, the next steps, assuming, and I'm underlining assuming that the tag would move the combined proposal forward. There are several meetings moving forward where we can more clearly define that. So that's when the opportunity would be to more clearly define those, those definitions.
Thank you. And not to beat a dead horse, but my hope is that this doesn't move forward and that we can take it into the legislative realm. But given that this is the chance to kind of get some other language revisions, then if we go to 2303.8 sub 1, I'd like to add sub 2 to make it consistent with steel projects where the total cost of mass timber or engineered wood is less than 5% of the total project value. Just again, to ensure that we have some consistency in how materials are treated.
You want to add exception 2?
Please.
And you said should be the same right here?
Yep. I mean, optimally, do you need to have different sections for different, so we're just saying the same things over and over from the standpoint of kind of, let's make this efficient, a definition section, and then an EPD section that includes all materials with the same exceptions and the same requirements could be perhaps a simpler way to get at the same thing. But
that would be a good idea for appendix, I think. But currently the proposals are in different chapters, so we can't.
Yeah. So again, my hope remains that we can do this legislatively and keep carbon regulation out of codes. But if there is no option but that this move forward, let's make sure that there is a level playing field among all impacted material groups.
So in the edit that you just made, you'd have to change structural steel to engineered wood.
We are moving so fast between steel, concrete, and wood. My head started spinning. Does it look better?
It reflects my suggestion, whether it's better or not.
Okay. Anything else, Rachel?
That was it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, I do want to move us towards the finish line here today. We have almost a half hour left. Larry, do you have a technical comment?
Yeah, I think that after everything that's been said here today, we need to uncheck the no cost and check the cost, because now we've got a registered qualified person that's got to go out there and check all this stuff. So we do have some cost here. It's not a no cost item. And I think that really needs to be brought up. The other thing that I see from the perspective as a person that actually has to go out there and make this happen is, the guy in the field specs, or the engineer specs all this stuff. But then when I go to buy the stuff, if it's not available, what are we going to do? We need to have some resolution here that that these EPDs for a specific company, when we have all the problems we have right now trying to get materials, I can see that you're gonna go out there, we spec the stuff, and then we go to get the stuff, and oh, by the way, we don't have this stuff. So I mean, and that's a huge issue right now. And so we need to have some grace period in here, or some forgiveness. If the product's not available at the time, we need to have some forgiveness in here so we can substitute a product that's somewhere in the ballpark so we can continue with the project. I mean, this is a really bad thing right now, trying to meet specs and acquire the product and then have it when you need it. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Larry. Okay, Micah.
Thanks, Todd. I just wanted to go back to the wood section if we could, Stoyan. I did want to bring up, and maybe we need to verify that in the steel section as well. And maybe that's a question that, or an answer that come from Roger. Was your intent to, wait till we get there. 20, let's go to 2308, 2303.8 right there is fine. Roger, was our intent to modify the secondary structural member or add that to the charging language of 2303.8 as well as 2205.3?
Yeah, yes, it was. I mean, I when we made those edits, it was, and that's kind of as we move forward, are we going to vote on 095 and 096 independent of the combined?
My suggestion is we do all three,
yeah,
so that the committee has feedback on all three.
Okay.
And so, yes, it was the intent, Mike, and I was also going back through to make sure we pick up the changes in each one.
Excellent. And then I did want to talk about the engineered wood. There's no technical definition for engineered wood as itself, but there are definitions for individual types like structural composite lumber, wood structural panels, prefabricated wood I-joist. The only thing that comes close to engineered wood is an engineered wood rim board. So I don't know if we want to consider those individual types of engineered wood, or if you're trying to incorporate all of them and then provide a definition. However, that may be a big collaboration issue on what should be included in the engineered wood definition. So
Micah, my recommendation was, and I've got the reference here, was to reference our RCW. So a few years ago, the legislature passed a definition of mass, well, I guess this was mass timber, so maybe that's where I'm confused. Okay, thank you for that clarification. Because the mass timber products was the category that included cross laminated, nail laminated, glue laminated, laminated strand timber, dowel laminated timber, laminated veneer lumber, structural composite, wood concrete composites.
Yep, but it doesn't really classify all of that as engineered wood and provide a specific definition, in my opinion, of course.
Yeah, no, that's a good one, Becca.
Yeah,
thanks. I speak to that on behalf of the wood product sector. That consistency and definition with mass timber, perhaps we take out engineered wood in the wood section and put mass timber.
That, I guess that's a question of whether that's intended. Engineered wood, okay, and Todd, I did find the reference to in the whatever it was, the B&O tax section. It only talks about engineered wood products such as particle board, oriented strand board, medium density fiber board, and plywood. So
the reference I was thinking was RCW 19.27.570.
Yeah, sorry, this one is where am I? 8204.260.
Have some statutory inconsistency that might be helpful to. I mean, these are the kinds of conversations, those collaborative processes would have helped to ensure that we have statutory consistency and help these conversations be a bit more robust.
Yeah, and that I would be careful. Oh, yeah, Todd, you were referring to the mass timber definition.
That was my mistake. Yeah, I think
so be careful. I would be careful about trying to drag in definitions from the legislation that's already there. Engineered wood products to me has been it's when you talk about it at the code development forums, people pretty much understand what you're talking about. So I don't know if a definition is really needed. You're talking about I-joist, you're talking about, glulam, you're talking about everything that's, kind of put together. And so I'm not certain we really want to get into a definition for engineered wood products, because otherwise you may start getting into problems with, the NDS and things like that. I don't know for sure, but how is it get used in other places?
In previous discussions, when we had attempted to engage in legislative processes on this exact language, we did, in fact, we were working within our constituent group to refine the definition so that it wasn't left up to question. So this is actually something that we have contemplated fairly deeply, and had hoped that there would be, again, that process where we could work together to get there.
Rachel, we definitely hear that. I think I'm confident we will have that process and that opportunity at the committee level. So thank you for that. I think this is definitely something we flag and make sure that we find a good pathway. But I agree with John. It's understood, but we need to clarify.
I
don't
don't
like
want
saying we're building with steel. We know what that means, and I'm not sure where that definition is either.
Code uses the definition or uses the term structural composite lumber, which might be better than engineered wood.
Maybe, yeah, because I'm not.
Todd,
Well,
I was going to, and I don't want to butt in front of Andrea again because she's had her hand up, but my thought, maybe a suggestion, is if mass timber is the least restrictive and the most narrowly defined, that maybe this particular change is for mass timber. And there can be conversations in the future about whether that definition is expanded. That's a thought. I'm not sure just how to move forward. Make this change more narrowly, more narrowly defined. And
Rachel, do you want to comment?
Yeah, I want to also be respectful of Andrea. Yeah, I'm for narrowing the scope currently to mass timber. That's going to be what's addressed anyway from the standpoint of structural materials for buildings over 50,000 square feet.
Okay.
Maybe not comfortable, willing. I want to be very clear with my language.
I think it's an area we need to further discuss, but I don't think it, quite frankly, kind of affects the context that we're dealing with here. I'm sure there's a hole in that statement. Andrea, please.
Yeah, I guess for me, just wanted to put out there that after hearing all the discussion today, I'm not sure that there's enough time within the Group 2 code timeline for everything to get completed. And based on stakeholder feedback at this meeting, which doesn't include all of the stakeholders that should be at the table, I think that we should probably vote on this within the next half an hour. And my recommendation would be to not move these three proposals forward. So I just wanted to state that. So thank you.
Okay, thank you, Andrea. And what I would say is, I agree we should take action, and I prefer to begin that process now so that it's not rushed at the end. Rachel, do you still have your hand up? Is there one more thing before we do that?
Nope.
Okay,
just
thank you. Okay, thank you, Andrea. And then with your comment, what I would ask is, I'd like to entertain a motion, but I'd like the motion to be in the affirmative like all other proposals so that it's very clear with the votes, yes and no, how to interpret that that vote. And I think that consistency is important, so we don't create confusion within the tag on what we're voting on and also within the committee. But Roger, you just put your hand up. Give a response to that.
Yeah, I'm just, you're asking for a motion.
Yeah, and let's set this up a little more.
Yeah.
Roger. Let's break all three out if that's acceptable to everyone.
What I was going to, if my suggestion is to start with 95 and make a motion that we approve 95 to move forward, assuming that the combined 95 is not, does not move forward. And I'm not sure the best way to.
Yeah, and I think we're saying the same thing, Roger, is that we're going to consider all three. And each one is going to be a motion to approve as modified, and you're voting on yes or no on that approved. But we intend to do that same for all three proposals.
Just to clarify, the combined document formally doesn't. It's not filed. It's not. So the combined document is here just for convenience for the TAC members, but we'll go with 95, 96, and the Wood proposal will need a different vote, whether or not it needs to, the TAC needs to request the council to include this in the rulemaking.
I think we're saying the same thing. Is that correct? Roger, is that you interpret it?
That's what I'm, we move it forward to the BFP committee. The BFP committee will consider whether they do the combined 95, 96. If they do that, then they would not approve just 95 and 96 separate. If they say that if the combined is inappropriate, and I'm unclear on that, then we move forward on 95 and 96 independently.
I agree. We're
95 and 96 were already submitted. They are filed with 95 and 96, and they belong to a different WAC. They have different WAC numbers, so I prefer to keep them as 95 and 96, and then based on the BFP and the council direction, we will figure out how to deal with the Wood proposal.
The combined proposal.
Well, the combined proposal contains 95 and 96. Again, I want to keep those as they were submitted with the numbering, and we may have a different number for the Wood proposal if it goes forward, or we'll figure that later in the game. So it's not important right now to concentrate on the numbers.
So, but to my knowledge, there's not a combined 95 and 96 without the Wood. There's 95, there's 96, and there's combined 95 steel, wood, or steel, concrete, and engineered wood. Is that correct?
Well, either way, we have three proposals, or we have one proposal with three different WAC numbers. That the council, the council and the TAC needs to vote individually on each one.
That's okay. I think thank you, Stone. That's we're all in agreement on that. Okay, so Roger, go ahead on 095.
I would just like to, if Stoyan could bring 95 up, because I want to make sure that the edits that I have, I want to make sure, because we did some in each, some in the combined. So 95 is the steel.
I will copy paste the combined, the text from the combined to the 95.
So right there on 1908.1, I found out there are two places in each one where the lateral force resisting system is, right at the little top line of your page there. 1901.8.1, primary structural frame, EPDs for 75% of products in the buildings, primary structural frame. We should cross out lateral force resisting system. That has to be picked up, and I guess I'm unclear, Stoyan. You're saying you're going to go through.
I don't want to work on two documents at the same time. So let's make the corrections on the combined document, and you can vote on each chapter. So I will incorporate the changes to the 95 to 95 and 96.
So that needs to be, that lateral force resisting system needs to be changed to secondary structural elements.
So Roger, what I believe Stoyan is saying is it
He'll
will
do
be
that.
the exact same language as we worked on the combined.
Right, but he is, Stoyan, right now you have the combined version up there, is that right?
Yes, sir.
And so do we want to make sure all of the edits are in the combined version, Todd?
Yes, I believe. Sorry.
Okay, so that lateral, the one that you just crossed out, you should insert secondary structural elements. I want to get the combined one with all of the changes included.
I'm
Thank
going to.
I wasn't understanding. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay.
And then did we get rid of number one? Go up a page, up a couple lines.
Yes, we did.
Okay, that's off. 1981, we got that. So now down to the steel section, there are two places in the steel section that have secondary structural elements. We have that one, but right down in 3.1, there is another right there. Yeah, that needs to be changed to also be secondary structural elements.
And that should also be italicized since it's a definition.
You're right. Which that will be, that's the final editorial that the staff will go through, but yes, you're right. And then down in the wood, are you? So we have secondary structural elements. You've got the first one. We added number 2 in this right there.
Okay.
And then we did get rid of the 4 bullet points on the bottom, I believe. That was the only place it was, and I saw you do it, so. So Todd, I would make a motion that we approve 095, the steel one, as modified with the changes that we have put into that combined proposal. Is that simple enough? Does that cover it?
It does. Thank you, Roger. Is there a second? So if we're choosing not to provide a second, and we have to have a pathway if we're going to use the negative to disapprove as a recommendation. So I prefer that we would take an up-down vote in the affirmative to be consistent with the other proposals, but it's the prerogative of the council if you don't want to provide a second.
Todd, for clarity, if I provide a second, can I vote no?
Right, that's what I'm proposing, is that we have a clear up-down vote, but we propose the motion in the affirmative.
Okay, so seconding the motion does not equal the vote directly.
Exactly, thank you.
Okay. Then I would second.
Or perception, that would be support, yes.
Yes, okay. Then I
But
would second.
procedurally, yes, you could kill it by not voting, by not providing a second.
But
And then we'd have to go take action.
I got it.
It does give
So I
the
would-
perception of support.
Sorry?
It does give the perception of support.
Okay, and that's a prerogative of each individual member. So if that, I'll leave it to and try and not influence the process.
I would second it so that we can get to a vote.
Thank you, Chris. So it's been moved and seconded by Roger and Chris. Okay, now any final deliberation?
This is Mike Barth. I haven't commented just because I've been listening to everybody and listening to all the testimony and everything. And I didn't chime in because Micah pretty much said everything that I was thinking about it, and I support his view on all of that. But I also think with all this discussion, it's what's showing why this is not ready. yet to move forward. There's so many things, there's so many stakeholders that also would like to wordsmith this and add bits and pieces that I don't think have been offered that full opportunity for it. But then overall, my opinion is, back to what Micah was saying, from a building official standpoint, the enforceability is extremely difficult. And it's like, from the overall, I support all these concepts, but it belongs in material standards, not in building code, in my opinion. So, with that, I know we've spent 3 hours, debating this and wordsmithing and all that, but I don't think the stakeholders are, have fully vetted this. And so in my opinion, that this, it's not ready and should go to the committee with a recommendation of disapproval.
Okay, thank you, Michael. Okay, any other deliberations before we vote?
I would echo those comments as well from Mike.
Sorry, this is I'm not on the council. Can I speak? I mean, on the tag.
I prefer that we're doing deliberation on the voting members now once we're in a motion, please.
Okay.
Thank you.
This is Tom. I have a question. Do we have abstain options or just
Yeah, we absolutely do, Tom. And in fact, I should clarify, as chair, with also interest in this in one of the industries, I will abstain unless it's a deciding vote.
Yeah, yeah, I do share some of the feelings that this is not that ready to be approved as it is. So, but I'd like to, yeah, okay. Just during the vote process, so we can have that opportunity for members to cast a vote.
Thank you, Tom. Okay, Roger.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment. There was talk about whether or not the code is the right place for this particular and the building code through ASC 7 does require the submittal of information on concrete and steel products, including yield strength, material properties, performance properties. It may flow through IBC to ASC 7 to ACI and AISC, but the requirement that steel and concrete and mass timber, for that matter, adhere to certain standards is already in the building code. It is part of the building code. So I don't know that, in my opinion, nobody had responded to that particular comment. And I believe, there's information about modulus of elasticity for concrete and steel in the building codes. Those are all requirements that are in the building code. So I just wanted to respond to that one particular comment.
Okay, thank you, Roger. Andrea, I saw your hand up, but now down.
No, sorry.
Okay, thank you. Okay, any other voting members have comment as we're in deliberation, just to be clear? Okay, with that, I think we need to do roll call, please. And again, the question at hand is a recommendation for approval with modification 095.
Roger?
Approved. Aye.
Charles? Charlie? Charles Calvano? Sue Kaufman? Is Mark Sniffen here? No, okay. Sean Kallstrom? Corey Thomas is not here.
Yeah,
Tom, are you here?
the vote is nay.
Nay, okay.
Sorry, this is Sean Karlstrom. I was having issues with my mute.
Okay, and your vote is? Sean? Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes, okay. Tom,
Abstain.
Chris Seaman,
No.
Al Spalding, Michael Bart,
No.
Will Rodriguez, Andrea Smith.
No.
That was such a no. Okay. Dave is not here. Bill and Adam Phillips.
No.
No. Okay. We have 2 yes. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 no, and we have 1 abstain. So
Okay.
the motion fails.
Thank you. Okay, and then with that, can we hear a motion for 096, please?
Yeah, I'll make the same motion for 0960 that we approve it as amended in the combined proposal.
Commander?
This is Tom. I will second that just for the vote on the record.
Thank you, Tom. So it's been moved and seconded for approval with modification for 096. Let me rephrase. So we approve a recommendation for approval with modification to the BFP committee for 096. Okay, now any deliberation by council or TAG members? Hearing none, let's move into roll call, please.
Roger,
Yes.
Charles Calvano, Stu Hoffman, Sean Carlstrom,
Yes.
Corey Thomas,
No.
Tom,
Abstain.
abstain, okay. Chris Seaman, Al Spalding, Michael Bart,
No.
Sorry, still in. This is Chris. No. Mute
Okay.
problems.
Will is not here. Andrea Smith,
No.
I know it. Dave Germer is not here. Bill,
No.
Bill is no. And Adam,
No.
no. Okay, we have 2 yes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 no, and 1 abstain. The motion fails.
Okay, thank you, Stein. John, did you have a comment in between our votes here?
Yeah, just don't you have to make an opposite motion for a recommendation? I mean, if those motions failed, so nothing's going forward right now. Shouldn't there be someone make a motion for disapproval?
Okay, I'm seeing nodding heads here, so. Thank you, John. So we'll go through. Andrea, do you have a comment on that procedure?
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion for disapproval on, I don't see the numbers in front of me, but the first one first.
Okay, so if we're gonna do this, we'll do the 095 and 096 in order, we just did. So I hear it, Andrea's made a motion for recommendation of disapproval of 095.
Yes. Yep.
Okay. For a second on that, please.
This is Chris.
Okay, so moving a second for recommendation of disapproval to the BFP committee for 095. Any deliberation?
Roger,
No.
Charles Calvano, Stu, Sean, Carlstrom, He's working on his audio, I think. Corey,
Yes.
Tom,
Abstain.
Chris Seaman,
Yes.
Al Spalding is not here. Michael Bark,
Yes.
Will is not here. Andrea Smith,
Yes.
Dave is not here. Bill,
Yes.
Adam.
Yes.
Okay, we have one. Oh, let's go back to Sean.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 yes, 1 no, and 1 abstain.
Okay, so that's disapproval on 095. Let's hear a motion for recommendation of disapproval on 096.
I'll make a motion for recommendation of disapproval for 096.
Thank you, Andrea.
I'll second. This is Adam.
Thank you, Adam. It's been moved and seconded for recommendation disapproval on 096. Any deliberation? Okay, Stein, please.
Roger,
No.
Sean Kallstrom,
No.
Corey Thomas,
Yes.
Tom,
Abstain.
Chris Seaman,
Yes.
Michael Bart,
Yes.
Andrea Smith,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
Adam.
Yes.
We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 yes, 2 no, and 1 abstain. Motion carries.
Okay, thank you. So an attempt to not make it confusing, we made it confusing, but I think we've all had enough practice now. So we'll entertain a motion on combined 05 and 06 with the wood additions for recommendation of disapproval to the BFP committee.
This is me, Andrea again. I would like to recommend that we disapprove the combined 095, 096 proposal.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second. This is Chris.
Okay, thank you. So again, it's been moved and seconded for recommendation of disapproval for combined 095, 096 with the wood addition to the BFP committee. Any deliberation?
Yeah, I have a
Adam?
clarifying question.
Yep.
Are we leaving engineered wood product or are we switching to mass timber product? I think the RCW 19.27.570 definition of mass timber product better aligns because that is what would be used in the structural system. So is that, I just want to be clear on what, is that what is being referred to, or are we leaving a unclear definition of what is meant by engineered wood product?
I think it's fair to say we understand the intent, but maybe it's not spelled out. And if your recommendation, Adam, is to reference the RCW.
Yeah, I heard that
support
thrown
that, I
out
think.
there. Is that what's going to happen? That it's going to be moved over to that, or is that still up for? I would recommend that it switch over mass timber products based off the RCW definition because it lays out specifically what products are being talked about.
Okay. I want to be careful here, and John, to include anyone outside of the council members' deliberation. I'd be caught. I'm a little hesitant because a motion is second has been made on that. I think it's a valid question, Adam, that it was left with. We understood what the intent was, but did not make that reference to RCW for John's recommendation. So I guess I'd advise that we move forward with the current vote, knowing that there's opportunity at the committee level to clean up that definition and include the more stakeholders as was the request. Is that okay?
Yep.
Yeah, but a valid point, Adam. Thank you. That one that I agree with. Okay, any other deliberation? Okay. Hearing none, let's move into roll call.
Roger,
No.
Sean,
Yes.
Corey,
Yes.
Tom,
Abstain.
Chris,
Yes.
Michael, Bart,
Yes.
Andrea,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
Adam, Phillips.
No.
We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 yes, 2 no, and 1 abstain.
Okay. Okay, thank you all. Did not intend to go to 1 o'clock today, but I think we can safely say we gave all three proposals at the TAG level thorough consideration. Representative of or appropriate for moving this to the next level at the committee level. So with that, thank you everyone, and we will adjourn. I'm sorry, Stoyan, I skipped
Roger.
over other business, but we're at time, so we're gonna adjourn. Thank you.
Thank you.